So in this question, we're testing purchase orders. Now we can see that the total population is 1,200 purchase orders. Obviously, we're not going to test every single purchase order, so we selected 60 to test. So what we're doing here is doing sampling. Right? We're going to test the sample, see if there's an error, and if there's an error, we're going to try to project that error over the entire population to determine, okay, is there a material misstatement? And that's exactly what the auditor did. So for the 60 items that were tested, they determined, okay, there's a $4,000 overstatement. Now, it tells us the company's materiality is $65,000 and that the tolerable misstatement for purchases is $50,000. So clearly that $4,000 misstatement we identified is well below those thresholds. But remember, that's only based on our testing of 60 items out of the 1,200. Now, we don't necessarily need to know how to project that for this question, but what we would do is use a little template and say, okay, based on our testing of 60 items, if we were to project this $4,000 overstatement across the entire population, well, that assumes, right, that the other part of the population has some similar characteristics, and part of that population will be overstated as well, right? That's what we have to assume when we do sampling and projections. Well, the reality is it could or it could not. We don't really know unless we test them all, but until we project that detected error across the entire population, we can't determine what to do next. So the correct answer is going to be project the detected error to the entire population. That's the next thing we need to do, which is exactly what this question is focused on. So when we read through the incorrect options, those are things that would happen after we projected that detected error of $4,000 over the remaining population. And based on that outcome, well, we might determine that it's still immaterial, right? So we would pass on the exceptions. We might determine that there is a material misstatement, so we would propose an adjustment. Now, I will say, when we do projected misstatements, the clients hate this. Right? They're going to sit there and go, well, how do you know there's a misstatement? You only tested some of the items, right? And that's the reality of when we do projected misstatements. We still are making some sort of judgments, and unless we expand the sample size and continue to test more, then we don't really know for sure. Now, often what we do is consider expanding the sample size, and if we added another 30 items to test and realize, okay, based on this testing, there actually is no material misstatement, then we're fine, right? So all of those options would be after we've projected that initial $4,000 overstatement. So that's why it's very important to read exactly what the question's asking for, which was, what should the auditor do next after they identify that $4,000 overstatement based on their initial testing of 60 items, right? This happens all the time in audit work. And unfortunately, the client will say, hey, you can test more because we don't have a material misstatement and we're not going to book anything based on your fancy little projections, right? So that's the reality here. But again, remember, the first thing you do after you identify a potential misstatement is project it over the entire population.